Hello and welcome everyone. We'll start in about 30 seconds. Okay, well, welcome to our session. I'm Darrell Kiernan, and I don't know why my video has turned red. If you see a red square, that is what I see. But anyway, I will introduce myself. I oversee English Language Arts K-12, and I am honored to be here today with Project Manager from Renaissance, Judy Steingass. And the title of our session is Mindset Matters, authentic titles from myON to support social emotional learning. I am going to get us started right away. I want to begin by just sharing a few outcomes for our hour together today. First, we'll begin with a definition of mindset. And then we'll demonstrate a few ways to foster growth mindset with titles in the myON core library. If you don't already know, myON is available to students in the state pre-K to 12 at no cost. Then we'll show you how to access the complete myON SEL book list with over 1,500 titles. And we'll close out by showing you where you can access the Read Nevada website with additional resources for educators and families. Okay, so before we begin, I just want to ground us in a definition of mindset. And this definition comes from the book, The Learning Landscape. This is a book that I'm currently reading with my colleagues in the Department of Standards and Instructional Support. It's a book study led by our director, Dave Bernkamp. And chapter 6 of this book is devoted to the topic of mindset. And so they provide just a really brief definition of mindset as the beliefs a learner has about their ability to grow. And then also thinking about reminding us that in order to do so, a learner must take action. Some of you might be familiar with Carol Dweck, and that's the research that I'm most familiar with in terms of mindset. So chapter 6 of this book offers just a really nice brief summary of Carol Dweck's work. And for those of you who may not be familiar with that name, she's the Lewis and Virginia Eaton Professor of Psychology at Stanford. And her work became, I think she became best known for her work in mindset with her landmark book, Mindset, The New Psychology of Success, which came out around 2006. And what she has shown us is that what learners believe about their most basic characteristics affects how they approach learning. And we know in a nutshell that learners with a growth mindset tend to adopt more positive learning behaviors, and that it's also possible to shift a learner's mindset. So that all sounds very, very simple, but we know that the dichotomy of a fixed versus growth mindset is a bit of an oversimplification. So I just wanted to remind us a little bit about the mindset continuum. And so in this visual that you see here, it provides a look at how you can move from fixed to high growth and what is in between. And it also offers some categories that you can consider in terms of mindset. And that is worldview, how you might approach challenges, and then how you might encounter difficulty and obstacles. So in thinking about teachers can be mindset movers. And a mindset move is an experience a teacher can create that can have an impact on a student's mindset. And we know and recognize that this isn't necessarily always a really straightforward process. We know that it can take many moves over a period of time working with students before changes can be seen. So today we want to think about books as a starting place for you in moving mindsets for students. And in that vein, I want to highlight a title from the myON core collection as an example of how you might do that. And the title that we've selected is Fuchsia Fierce. So I'm going to start by just reading a little bit of the start of this book for you. But Fuchsia wasn't bold or fierce. She was quiet, shy, tiny, and timid. She was scared to try new things or stand out in a crowd. Okay, so then her parents notice this and decide, I've skipped a few pages here, that Fuchsia might need to go to Camp Confidence. And so they've decided to send her over to Camp Confidence. And I don't know if you're looking at the screen right now, but she has her arm in a sling and she has a crutch. Upon arrival, Fuchsia quickly decides she wasn't going to let Camp Confidence change her. She would do what she always did, make up excuses, so she didn't have to try anything new. All right, so I want us to think for a minute about how Fuchsia approaches challenges. And this is the type of activity that you might be able to do with your students. So where is Fuchsia on this continuum? If she has a completely fixed mindset, I'm thinking that she avoids challenges. Low growth means that she takes on easy challenges. Mixed is defined as she prefers immediate goals. Or growth to high growth. And if she were high growth, she would embrace challenges. So just based on the information that you have right now about Fuchsia, would you drop into the chat one of those 5 words? So in the chat, do you believe she is fixed, low growth, mixed, growth, or high growth? So I'm going to pause for you to place one of those words into the chat. Well, it looks like we have almost 100% agreement. In fact, on my screen right now, I do see 100% agreement about fixed mindset. And if we had longer than an hour, I might have you talk to a partner about what evidence in the book did you find to support your decision or your opinion that Fuchsia is exhibiting a fixed mindset. But since we don't, and I want you to be able to see the rest of the book and learn about some of the literacy tools, I am going to turn it over to my colleague, Judy Steingass. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let her start sharing her screen. So give me just a second to do that. Judy, are you able to share now?
I am.
Okay.
How's that go? Well, first of all, I am Judy Steingass. I am the project manager for the state of Nevada for Renaissance, along with Darrell, her being from NDE and me being from Renaissance. So excited to share with you today just a little bit about social emotional learning and how myON can support that. We have developed a list, and Darrell will be showing you those resources in a few minutes, about how the books go across that SEL learning. So it can be available to students, and this is in all grades. So everywhere from pre-K through 12th grade, we have some books that will accommodate that. I want to go in and just show you what it would look like for a student to come in and staying on our book of Fuchsia Fierce. Anyhow, as a student comes in, just a reminder that a student will be logging in through Clever. So when they come in, they will be just clicking on their myON button. And then with the exception of a couple of places, including Clark County, which will come in through their Renaissance button. So, but for the most part, they're going to be looking for that myON piece. When they come in, the student is immediately going to go to this dashboard. On that dashboard, it's going to show a few different things. It's going to show them the book that they last opened, a little reader meter about the time they spent reading, where they are with their Lexile and what that equivalent is to ATOS. So it gives them just some information. So there's a couple of different ways that we can have students go in and look for books, or we also can assign them. So as teachers, you can have projects. I built a little project about mindset matters. So as this grade 3 student, I'm going to go in and just see what that looks like. That shows up on their front dashboard. They can come in, and inside of that, we're going to give them some directions. So this is kind of just a pre-built little lesson around this particular book, and is very simple. But we're going to ask some leading questions, as well as we want them to read the book. We want them to look at it and make notes in their journal about what actions did she take. We also want them to identify vocabulary words and find definitions of things they might not understand to help build vocabulary. And then just to do some small activities of writing a sentence. Again, talking about literacy and the ability to go in and actually read a book, as well as have some tools to use to also think about and reflect on what their actions might be to change their mindset. So I'm just going to go ahead and start reading this book. When a student comes into a book, I just want to point out that the functionality is that they're going to go in, if they've, I could start it over at the beginning, which would be the first page, or I can continue the book. So if they've already opened it, they can just jump in. It always remembers where they were at. But I want to point out a few things over on the right-hand side. They have a dictionary, they have a tools box, they have a journal. So we've asked them to actually write in their journal as they're reading through the book. We've also asked them to identify some words that they may or may not understand. So if I open up these tools, I'm going to see that I have a highlighter there. I can also open up my journal. And here's where I can take some notes. So I've started one with growth mindset, but let's just jump into the book. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to continue the book. So you can
Fuchsia Fierce was a bold name for a little girl.
So I'm just going to pause it there for a second because I want to talk a little bit about the scaffolding that's inside of the books. So again, keeping with our today's theme, but starting the book out, these books are read by authors. So it's read with a combination of expression. It has young voices, old voices, accents, different types of things in different books, but it allows the student then to actually listen to the book as they go through it. It also is going to highlight the word that it's on, as well as the sentence that it is reading. So I'm just going to go one more page. Again, typical navigation, left and right. I'm going to go ahead.
But Fuchsia wasn't bold or fierce. She was quiet, shy, tiny, and timid. She was scared to try new things or stand out in a crowd. So, Fuchsia's parents decided to help her. "You're sending me away?"
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause this for a second. Here's where I went in then with a highlighter, and I actually chose a highlighter and I highlighted the word confidence because I wasn't, as a student, real sure what that meant. So part of my instructions in my project was to highlight words I didn't meet. Well, we have a dictionary. I can click on that. If I go over here and open the dictionary, I can click on that word and view it in the dictionary, and it's going to give me then some definitions. It gives me the ability then to actually open my journal, and I could go in and put the word confidence, and from reading that, put what I think it means. Something else you could ask them to do as they're discovering this vocabulary and working through the books is to identify with that. I am confident that I can. and then they could list some of those pieces. It just gives them that ability then to take notes as they're going through the book, as they're discovering that vocabulary and the meanings, but at the same time starting to develop an interest in the book itself and starting to see the pathway it's taking. So as we continue to move through it, and I'm gonna keep it paused on the sound there. At any point that they come across a word that they don't think that they understand, they always can go in and use that highlighter. They can always double click on it and it will open it up over in the dictionary. Again, they always can come back to their journal at any time. So maybe as a teacher, you're going to ask them to write a paragraph after they finish the book about what confidence means and what their own personal traits are as they're starting to do the social emotional learning. So that's just a quick overview of what happens inside of a book. I also want to exit out of the book itself and show you just a couple quick ways to look for books. We're going to give you some resources and a list as well. But underneath the library, you also can go in and do a search. So if you were working on confidence, you could go in and type in that word and do a search and then find some books that would allow you then to look at other books that are about confidence. So it's a way for them to go and search and then have choice of books to read in addition to what you might be assigning them in the classroom. But it's just a great way for students to find books that are about the topic and be able to do that. So that in the search is one way for them to do it as well. And of course, in the projects itself. So with that being said, I'm going to just turn it back over to Darl so that she can go in and show you in the Nevada portal where you can find resources, not only about SEL, but a lot of other tools as well. So Darl, I'm going to stop my share and take it away. Darl, are you there?
There we go.
Well, there you go. How's that go? So now let's go off and take a look at the NDE and where you can find those resources.
Okay, so on my screen, you see our Read Nevada page. If you Google Read Nevada, you will find this page, and this will take you to a lot of resources. At the top, you will find an overview of myON Reader. So if you wanted to learn more about myON in general, you could go there. Then if you scroll down, you will find resources for families. Uh-oh, hang on. There we go. I need to switch screens. There we go. So if you scroll down here, you will find family resources. So if you click on family resources, you'll find lots and lots of ways that you can engage your families with family reading. And then if you scroll down here, we'll find resources for schools and districts. And so for our time today, that's where I'm going to take us. I'm going to take us to our resource portal. And when you go to the resource portal, you'll find a lot here. So don't be overwhelmed. It is in categories. And so we scroll down and we find resources specifically for pre-K. Then we find resources for all grades. And then we find resources specifically for faculty and administrators, our seasonal resources, and our book lists. So right here is where you'll find the book list for our social emotional learning. If I click there, there are 3 ways I can access. I can get a direct link, or I can download directly from here. So this book list shows you the 5 categories: self-awareness, social awareness, self-management, relationship skills, and responsible decision making. Those are keywords that can take you to additional titles. And then the bullets show you some of the other topics that you'll find embedded into those key topics. But what I think you might like most is the complete list. So if you click here on complete list, this will take you to an Excel spreadsheet of over 1,500 titles organized by these topics in here in green for you. I'm not going to take us there today, but if you click here, you'll be able to find it. Also, if you want to learn more about the CASEL list and their framework, you can click here and go directly to the CASEL website. Okay, so with that, Judy, I'm going to turn it back to you for a few more looks at Fuchsia.
All right. It's thinking. It's thinking. I should be back there in a second.
Right? There is a bit of a delay.
There is, interestingly enough.
Yes. I'm glad you're experiencing it as well. It just wasn't me. While you're doing that, I am going to get some links to our book list to drop into the chat for
Okay,
our participants.
perfect. All right, so now I am back on the library itself, and I'm back in as a grade 3 student. As we're taking a look at this, I want to talk just a little bit more about myON in general, but specifically around this book. So as we were looking at this book, some information that you can gather as you're trying to decide, you know, what book or books you might want to use, is you always can look at the info of the book itself, which will give you the recommended grade levels, about the length of the book, the time of the book as you're thinking about it. So there's 2 different ways you might do this. You might do it as a project and give it to students and assign it and have them pre-read it on their own and do some of the work. Or you could also do it as a group piece inside of the classroom. So you're working with a group of students. You have a screen that you can show it up on. You could actually open up this book, show it up on the screen, and then be able to have conversation around it as you're moving through it. So it would give you that capability to go in. I'm going to open the book back up here in a second, but it gives you that information up front so that you kind of have that information. I'm just going to go ahead and go back to read. It's always going to remember where I left off at. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn the sound back on, and we're going to go ahead. And here's where we start seeing some of the positive pieces in it. And you'll be able to...
After that, Fuchsia started to try new things, even if they were hard or scary. Was she the best at everything she tried? Nope. But that was okay.
So you can start to see that through this now. If you were doing this in a group setting, you could start having conversations with students. Or if they're doing it on their own, again, asking them to write in the journal. You as teachers will be able to see what those individual students have done inside of their journals. So I'm going to exit here and actually log in as a teacher. So as a teacher, to be able to go in and look at my projects that I have assigned to students, I have the ability to go down, and we're looking at Mindset Matters. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. I'm going to be able to see that a student has started it, that they're started working on it. I can go and open up where they're at actually, and then I will see my roster down on the left-hand side. I can click on the individual student, and now I can actually see their book. So you'll see at the top, I'm viewing that student's book, and I want to go see what they've written in their journal. So now I can click on the journal and go in and look at that student's journal. I also can start the book and see any words that they have highlighted. So I can read it as the student. So I'm actually in their book. It also gives me the opportunity then to go through,
Fuchsia.
I'm going to pause this, but it lets me respond to them as well. So maybe I see they highlighted the word confidence here. So that meant that they didn't understand the vocabulary word. They looked it up in the dictionary. They maybe have written something in their journal. But now I can go in and I can do a couple things. I can go back to these tools. I also can do a sticky note. I can actually leave a sticky note on their page and say, I know that you're confident about, and give them an example. So it allows then you to leave them notes as well, or even a happy face, those kinds of things. So you can leave them notes. You also can leave them notes in their journal as well. So you could go in and leave the leading question here that you want them to answer, do those kinds of things. So it really gives you an opportunity to be interactive with your students as they're moving through the project itself. Again, you also can what we call build bundles. So if we want to go into the library and go in and actually search for books about confidence, or maybe we want to do traits. Let's do traits. I could go in and look for books around traits, and the big list that she's going to put up inside of the chat room, where you can see that entire list, you could go in and just find a handful of books from there that have already described around certain areas. But you could go in then and give the ability to go in and look at specific books. Once you've done that, you can actually create a bundle. I'm just going to go back to confidence here. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to choose, I want quiet confidence. I'm going to add that to my list. I'm going to do, let's do the bumblebee one. Let's add Fuchsia too. She's in there. Now, when I go back up to my library and go to my list, I have the capability then of building what I call a bundle for specific things. So it gives you that ability to identify what it is that you're adding. So I want to add something. I want to do a new book bundle. I'm going to do it here. And I'm going to save it. And now I can go in and add to that book. So I've added some things in here. You have to excuse mine. Mine's kind of a mess. But I'm going to go in and I'm going to look for some of those books that I want to add that I have saved. And they're going to be down on the bottom because I just added. I'm sorry if I'm making you dizzy. I don't mean to do that. I could go in and add and just drop those into that book. So I can sort on a specific title. I can look at Lexile. I can look at page count. There's different things that I can sort on. So it gives me that capability to go in and find books. And then I can go in and I can assign that bundle then for my students. And it will show under their recommended books. So I can copy it to a project or I can share it with students. So it gives me that capability to go in and share it until a certain date. So if you're doing a certain topic in your classroom, it gives you that capability to go build that bundle, share it with all of your students until a certain date, and then save it. And then now when they open up their recommended button, they're going to see that as one of their, I just did the social studies one. We also have a robotics one, but it gives that capability to go in then and see those books inside of that bundle. So just another way to get those books in front of students and still allow them to have choice of what they're reading, but it's around the topics that you're most interested in. So I'm going to pause there for a second and ask if there's any questions, just anything, myON.
Judy, we do have a question about how very low students could write in a journal.
Okay, so if very low students are writing in a journal, it doesn't have to be sophisticated. It's just anything that they're going to type on the keyboard is going to be reflected in their journal. So if they went into a book, let me just jump back here, and are jumping into a book, let me get back in as a student. If anytime I'm in a book and I open up my journal, at that point in time, even if it is mistyped, if it's it's going to reflect what they're writing or typing. So it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be just very simple. It could be, as they're starting to put those sentences together, I like something, I do something, I will something, it can be very, very simple to use to start journaling at a very young age. And again, they can look at their book while they're typing in here too, to say, maybe you're going to do nothing more than ask them in their journal to write down the word that they saw that they didn't understand. If they do nothing more than just look at the page and type that in, it gives them that capability to do that. So that would be some suggestions there. The other thing sometimes I use a journal for at the very young ages is to nothing more than identify sight words that you're working on. So if you're doing pre-KK, is to be able to go in, open their journal and just type the sight word of the day. And then look in the book and highlight it on a page. So they're going to highlight that sight word on a page, and then they're going to write it into their journal. I mean, you can do simple things like that to get them started at that very young age.
Judy, we also had a nice idea from one of our participants that the teacher could provide sentence starters. And I think that's also what you were demonstrating with I like.
Yes.
We also have a question about, does myON integrate with Canvas?
Yes, it does. So if you're using Canvas, how's that go? My background is actually as a technology director in a school district where my job was to integrate technology into the classroom, which we used Canvas, and we also used myON. So it gives you that capability of being able to go in and put the link to the book directly into Canvas. So like I am on this specific book, you'll see up at the top the URL. If you take that URL and put it directly into your Canvas lesson plan, it will allow that student, when they get that, to click on that. The caveat is they need to log into myON before they start working out of Canvas. In other words, they're going to go in through Clever, they're going to log into myON, not log out. They're just going to log into myON. They're going to go ahead and go to their Canvas page and start working. Anytime they hit a link, then it will take them directly to that book without asking them to re-log in. And they can go directly to that book, follow the directions that are inside of Canvas, or if it links to a project inside of myON, work on their project inside of myON. So yes, absolutely doable. I see another question. Is there a way to have a word wall? Sure, you can always assign tasks that use tools outside of myON. So what I could do, there's almost always a glossary that's included inside of most books in myON. I could actually go to that glossary, pull some words, but use another tool to build the word wall itself. There's lots of different ways you can integrate myON with other things that you use. you can, gives you that other, examples. Some of you probably attended Discovery today. If you wanted to assign a video that was in Discovery inside of a myON project, you could do that. Or you can combine them together inside of Canvas. So there's lots of different ways that you can use myON to support. Remember, it's just a lot of great books and resources, just like going to a library. So it gives you that capability to go in and do that. I also saw one other question here where how you can construct a lesson plan and then specific information around the materials, et cetera, inside of it. To actually build a project, and I'm not going to go into depth, this is another day's discussion for sure, but if I am logged on as a teacher, you always have the ability to go in and either look for lesson plans that are pre-built. So if I went under projects and I went to the cloud, I can go and I can search for something specific for a topic. I'm just going to put in self-aware. Okay, let's do self-awareness and take a look for it. If I look for it, these are some projects that have already been built, or lesson plans, and sometimes they may be unit plans that have already been built. I could go in and take a look at that and see if that fits my needs. In this particular one, it's already has a lot of books in both English and Spanish around emotions for pre-K2. If I think it's something I want to use, I can copy it to my projects and then I can modify it to meet my own. Or it also allows you to go in and you can actually build your own. So if you click over here on the left and you want to create a new project, it takes you through it step by step. And then including building a reading task when I was talking about using other tools outside of myON, an all-purpose task, or maybe it's an assignment where you're going to have them share with the classroom, or maybe they're going to do a PowerPoint or something else. That could be the all-purpose task. And then there's also a writing tool and a graphic organizer here as well that you could use as part of that. But you could actually build your own inside of here, or you can go out to the cloud and search and see what might be out there. The only caveat is I'm going to tell when you're either bringing one in from the cloud or you're building your own, always remember to click save. Because if you do the work in here and you don't click save, it won't save it. So once you've done that, then it gives you the ability to go down. Once it's built, it'll come in as an inactive project. Then you can assign it to your students. It will bring up your rosters, either by grade level or by rosters and groups. Then you can go in and then find your students, add them, and then it will assign. Once you get all your students over here you want it assigned to, you click apply. Now, the next time their student opens myON, they're going to see then that particular project available to them. Other questions?
Yes, in the chat I had asked about, is the myON in Canvas, is there an external tool for it as well, or just put the links in?
You can just put the links in, or you can you mean just to go to myON itself in general?
Yes, because I know like when you're assigning the assignments, it gives you an option like with the Google assignments.
Yeah, basically, well, you can go up, you would have to put the link.
Okay.
So, but if it's a project that's inside, you can also get that link at any time off the URL and put it directly in there, so it takes them directly into that project, so that you can embed it into Canvas for sure. Oh, somebody asked again where the pre-built lessons are again. They're under classroom, under projects, and then you click on where the little cloud is and the arrow. So the link to answer, I think that was Jen's question.
Yes, thank you.
So a lot to offer in myON. It can be used for instructional purposes and to connect to support curricular learning, but it also is a great resource for independent reading. So again, it's a place your students can go 24/7. They can get it from home. It can be assignments from school. It can be just for reading for pleasure, to be able to go in and get to this wonderful resource that the state is providing to all students in the state of Nevada. So with that, Darrell, I'll turn it back over to you for any closing comments.
Okay, Judy, right now in the link, I'm putting in the copy to the book list again. So right now you see the SEL book list, and then following that, I'm going to drop in the link to the whole portal. And the portal was the page that I showed you that had all of the resources. So let me drop that in right now because you'll have two different places to go. Let me know if you are not able. So the first link is just to the SEL book list. The second link is to the whole portal. And then I also want to include a couple of questions came up about the presentation. If you want to email me directly, I'll give you a PDF version of the PowerPoint if you don't want to wait and have to go back to the site. So I'm going to drop my email in the chat right now.
I'm just going to add on to that too. If there's any of you that in your building, in your district, in your grade levels, any of those things, think you need some further support with myON, please don't hesitate to reach out to either Darrell or I, and we can arrange something for that. So we really want to make sure that you have the support that you need to implement it within your classrooms, schools, districts as well.
Okay, so Judy on her screen is showing another way. There are multiple ways you can get to the resources, but this is the home page for Nevada Department of Education. So at any time, if you just Google Nevada Department of Education, you'll see a button on the home page that says Read Nevada, and you can click there and access all of the resources as well.
And then it will go to the page that she showed you earlier. And again, you can see different types of things here, including family resources as well for information to send at home. In addition to then the resource portal that she showed you earlier. But I wanted to make sure that you had that because it's a great way and a great tool to stay current. We're adding new stuff all the time. And so certainly, will help you to get to that point. So if you're having trouble getting the link to open that was put in the chat, just go to the Nevada Department of Ed page, click on that Read Nevada, and then from there you can get to this page then about resources. It also has who some of the contacts are for myON questions internally in each district over on the right-hand side. And it also has Darrell's email there on the top of the page so that you can get a hold of her as well.
Okay, I see one message that you couldn't get the link to open, so I will drop in one more time. Okay. I also want to just leave us with some closing thoughts. So taking us back to the topic of mindset, I think it really says a lot about your mindset as an educator to be here on a Saturday to learn more. And I want to conclude this presentation by reminding you how much teachers and educators and librarians really matter. Because your mindset is very influential on the mindset of students. So I liked this quote from the Learning Landscape, and if you can't see it, I'm going to go ahead and read it. Reflect on your mindset as a teacher. Some of the most powerful influences on a learner's mindset are the subtle, often unconscious messages they receive from you as a teacher every day. Once you see the world through a growth mindset lens, you'll send more growth mindset messages to your students. And I really believe that is true. So I just want to commend you for being here today. And if there are any resources that you were not able to access, please reach out to me and I will share them all with you. We have 3 minutes left, and so I'm going to stop here. If you are wanting a little bit longer of a break, you are welcome to leave, and you have my permission, I guess, so to say, to do that. Or if you want to stay and you have additional questions or more links that you would like, I will share them one more time in the chat. I'm getting the links